Elina Meke Aloha. I'm Joshua Cooper, and welcome to Aloha, Sustainability in Hawaii, and Peace in our Pacific, the UN SDGs movement in Moana Nui Akea. Today, we're looking at promoting well-being in Hawaii and our world, UN SDG 3, ensuring healthy lives with Aloha. The UN SDGs movement, focusing on the UN Sustainable Development Goals, provides 17 global goals to accomplish and actualize the 2030 agenda around the world. UN SDG 3 focuses on ensuring healthy lives, centered around Aloha and Ola. Global Goal 3 also ensures healthy lives, focusing on the liberation of the human spirit, beginning with decolonizing one's mind. Today, I'm fortunate to be joined by Leon, and we're going to be looking at why sustainability is so imminent and important. And Leon, can you share with us what inspires you to focus on sustainability and social justice?
Well, yes. So thank you very much for having me on the show, Joshua. I've been involved for years with restoring, or actually the movement to restore the Hawaiian Kingdom as a sovereign independent country. And with that discussion, of course, is what kind of a country are we going to have once we are independent and self-governing? And so much of our discussion has been on where are we going, what kind of future do we have, and what difference, what do we need to change in order to live a healthy and sustainable, to have a healthy and sustainable future. And part of it has to be, of course, well, there's so many aspects to it, but part of it has to be with our attitude and how we see ourselves, as well as what our worldview is, that what will govern the way that we create the new society that we're looking for. So this is how I got started, and particularly in restoring the Hawaiian Kingdom as a sovereign nation, but then thinking forward, what is that sovereign nation going to be like, and what changes we need to make, and why?
That's a great point. So it really looks at one, individual health and well-being, and then also holistic health of the nation, and seeing how the people, individual health is connected to the health and the well-being of the entire nation. If you look at this, Global Goal 3 ensures healthy living, focuses on that liberation, really a genuine liberation. And Ola illustrates a perspective of one's kuleana with one's own culture and well-being of the collective on our island Earth, beginning in one's ahupuaa. Could you maybe expand on that a bit?
Yes, well, the term Ola in Hawaii means life. And of course, Hawaiian words are, especially the shorter they are, the more powerful and more profound they are in their meanings. So when it's not just simply about life, about living, but it's about what creates life, what sustains life, and and how we as people are responsible for Ola, for actually sustaining life and giving life a better quality. So from a Hawaiian standpoint, Ola is very, very important, and that if we're talking about particularly about the future and how we're going to be living in a sustainable society, then we have to be living as life givers and life providers, life supporters. And so Ola is again very important. and that in contrast to the current situation, in which life doesn't seem to be the predominant focus of the society that we have right now, which is basically an American society overlaid over a Hawaiian society. And that American society, of course, has very different values and different standards, different concepts of what life or what sustainability even is. And it seems like, of course, one of the biggest complaints in the world today is that even the colonial powers are realizing that they cannot sustain the style and the method in which they're doing it. And so, they're calling for these sustainable development goals, which, of course, they're now beginning to admit that they've made a mess of things, and we need to get back doing to restoring things. But then again, because of the mindset and just the style that they're involved in, it's really difficult to have those that created the mess solve the mess as well. You know? So we really need to bring different kinds of thinking into it.
No, really good points. You can't have the model that created the mess be the one to get us out. In fact, that's why Indigenous people's perspective is beginning to be valued, but as we know, not truly being understood. And when we look at the perspective of the colonial powers, it's really seeing the world, nature, as really not only a natural resource, but a tool to be able to make even greater profit. Whereas that's probably the greatest clash with Indigenous perspectives and philosophy, where it's really that sense of Ola that you're describing, and also that sense of what matters most, and changing that we actually have to just understand it's a life force and how sacred it is, and then beginning to then think of that as the beginning. Everything must begin with Aina. We really have to shift where it's ecology, then equality, then equity, and then economy, as opposed to the other way around. Sharing on that?
Well, I think you stated it very, very well. And one of the things that how would you say prevents an obstacle to doing what you were just saying is that just the mindset or the difference in concept of why we're here or what our purpose is in life here. So again, going back to the colonial system, it basically the vision or the mindset of colonial system is that the earth is here to be used and to be somehow to be exploited in a way that provides wealth and this kind of material objectives to gain more wealth, to gain more power, to gain control over things. And it seems like the entire idea of life and that the earth is here to which for our sustainable to be sustaining to us, and then it is our responsibility to maintain that earth that is sustainable to us, as well as just basically to carry on for our generations. Again, it comes down to the kind of perspective or the mindset that a culture has. So the colonial American culture is very, very short term. It's just like, what can I make for myself right now? And rather than long term, it's what is going to be left in the future. If I extract everything out of the ground, all of this or all of that out of the ground, what's going to be left for the future? That is not really part of the mindset of the colonial powers or the colonial people or colonial society. And so Indigenous peoples, on the other hand, look at it as we're part of a continuity, that this was given to us as a gift, but it is not ours to keep or to exploit. It is ours to protect and help to improve it if we can, and pass it on to the next generation. So we just are we're just caretakers in this whole thing, but caretakers with a very how would say sacred duty to really take care for this, because it is not ours. It is the generations who came before and the generations who are coming later. And so if you started with that mindset, as opposed to the colonial mindset, which is I'm here, what can I get out of this situation? And I don't care who it hurts, or in the past or in the present or in the future. It's just like here and now, and what can I get from this? So that, and of course it's a bit oversimplified, but that is the basis of the colonial mindset. And the two don't really seem to agree, not agree. They're incompatible with each other. And in our experience, in the last few hundred years, it has been the colonial mindset that has been the one that's asserted itself, much to the detriment of not only the peoples, but also of the planet and the resources. And so now we're faced with, how do we turn this around? And of course, again, as we stated earlier, it's difficult to let the people who mess things up be the ones responsible to straighten it out, because in some respects, they have no idea what it would take to straighten things out.
Really good point. And we really have to move and shift from exploitation and extraction to a relationship of mutual exchange. And as you pointed out as well, the indigenous cosmology really is rooted in kokua and kuleana, as opposed to the industrial mind that's really focusing on short-term gains. Even the political system of looking at things only for 2 or 4 years based on a political cycle. Whereas indigenous, if you look at Kumulipo, since time immemorial, infinitely into the future, as well as even the Haudenosaunee model that you and I have both met doing work in Geneva and at the Permanent Forum, that 7-generation perspective as we go forward. Can you share a bit about some of the work that you're doing and how that's having an impact in our islands regarding individual health as well as larger well-being going forward?
Okay, well, as I said, most of the work that I'm doing has been to communicate with the international community that the Hawaiian Islands are under a strange form of occupation, and that we are working to restore our nation as a sovereign country. And most people look at it, again, because the world is generally has a colonial mindset. So most people are looking at it as, okay, a group of people want their freedom so they can operate their, to be independent. But if you look around at the countries that have become independent and are members of the United Nations today, many of them are there are many indigenous countries with many indigenous, or let's say a majority of indigenous peoples, but they have adopted the style of the colonial peoples to the point where they themselves have colonies. New countries have been formed, actually have colonies of countries that were somehow placed within their borders, but were from time immemorial independent. So, what I have been doing is to communicate not only our political and legal options to be, or a necessity to be free of the United States in this case, but also that we need to start. This is our only chance, really, for Hawaii to save itself from the disasters that have been created by the colonial systems. And the only way we can save ourselves is to really truly be able to apply our principles and our traditions and our ways of handling things and ways of looking at things. So if, for instance, if we become an independent country but still maintain the mentality of colonial countries, we'd still be in a fix, because we wouldn't be able to address properly the remedies that would be needed to restore our land and our resources and our people and our health of our people and all that. So in the message I'm giving to the international community, that this is not just a geopolitical problem we're facing here. It's really the survival of our nation, of our people, that we have to be able to be the ones to govern how we order our society and under what principles, so that we can survive. And so we can not just survive, but prosper and thrive.
You really bring up some great points, and it's an existential threat that all of humanity faces.
Yes.
Come back to your first point on indigenous becoming independent and then actually recolonizing other spaces. We know that's true in Southeast Asia with Khmer Kampuchea. We see that very often with Indigenous people in India, the Kuki who defeated the British and never surrendered, even when they destroyed all of their crops. They've just been attacked as well and had their homelands burned, and there are those important sacred spaces to them. So it's really a sense of independence, but then understanding that interdependence with all species, as well as the sacred places on our planet, and pulling all that forward together.
Yes, yes. And so there is a place for international relations and all that, but there also it needs to be a place where the people themselves are not just in the term self-governing, meaning we have our own country, but we actually do make the decisions and the practices of how we live on our lands. That is up to us, and it's not really to be dictated by somebody else or the imposed culture of somebody else.
It's true. And when we look at Global Goal 3 for worldwide good health, it's promoting healthy lifestyles, preventative measures, and modern efficient healthcare for everyone. So it's sort of high touch and high tech.
Right.
SDG 3 aims to achieve universal health coverage, including risk protection, access to quality essential healthcare services, and access to safe, effective, quality, and affordable essential medicines for all. Can you share a bit, even the message of the Queen, who understood how important health was and how she was able to look out going forward for her people, knowing the challenges that were being faced during those tumultuous times of really seeing the different forces coming into play in the 19th and 20th century?
Yes, yes. Of course, Queen Emma was the one who started the Queen's Hospital, and this is very visionary on her part, in that she could see all around herself the devastation that was going on with the Hawaiian people's health, primarily to diseases that were decimating our country. And so she purposed herself to provide health care. And it's a modern form of healthcare, which is very usable to try to save people from dying. But on top of that, there is a great emphasis in Hawaii that, or what, let's say, the healing powers of our within our culture, the healing techniques and processes within our culture were pretty much overrun by the imposition of a Western medical system. But at the same time, we still have practitioners or had practitioners around, and it seems to be expanding now to look at not just medical science, but looking at health as a holistic factor. And part of that, of course, is the mindset. One of the most destructive parts of colonialism was to come in and discount and put down all indigenous practices as all being superstition or what else. And so they drove the real practitioners of health and welfare in our society, it drove them underground, or in some places just completely destroyed them. And so the society became dependent on a Western health system. But unfortunately, that Western health system only addresses the diseases and doesn't really address well-being, or had not addressed well-being until fairly recently. And so now we're looking at the well-being, and we have instances such as the Shintani diet, the what it was called, the Waianae diet, I think it was called, and in which people with serious health problems were put back onto the foods that our ancestors ate, and it was a startling recovery of most of those people who were put back on what the foods we eat, which means that the loss of our food sources, the loss of being able to eat the foods that were here with our people for generations and generations, the kalo, the uala, all of these foods, the ulu, when we stopped eating that, that's when we became susceptible to these diseases, or to the modern diseases of heart problems and diabetes and a lot. But if we go back to eating our natural foods, then we actually restore our health. And so this is the type of things that we have to be working on. That the holistic approach to our health is much more effective, and it's much better for us, rather than looking at the end treatment where they're just trying to save you from dying, So,
No,
yeah,
it's so true. It's the preventative angle, and then it's the whole process. And it's not just something at the end to stave
right.
off. He really points out how we have to decolonize everything, from
Yes,
decolonizing the diet to the current democracy system that's really focusing so much on political donations. And that really gets me to think about good health for individuals and well-being for Indigenous peoples begins with the decolonizing the mind, as Gugi
yes,
Wantiao spoke about, but also to reimagine one's own cultural perspective of land and overall cosmology. That reminds me of the story you were sharing with the Dakota, Lakota,
hmm
Nakota people, really at that edge of Paha Sapa, the
hmm
looking at the Mammoth Black Hills of South Dakota. And it was there that your friend shared with you that perspective of how beautiful nature is in its own right, and how it must be protected and preserved, but how we really see people coming at it and then destroying it and changing it in their own values. And that's where we have to look at, to make sure the values of Kanaka Maoli are present, to make sure the voice is heard, and then to share the vision of where we need to go going forward.
yes, yes, and again, one of the powerful things that the colonizers use is our own minds, right? To make us feel incapable, incompetent, backwards, old-fashioned, and things like that. And they basically use those types of arguments to enforce or to present their style. And what that does is it actually damages the psyche. It damages our worldview, unless we basically stand up and say, no, that's not so. But it's pretty like, I'm telling you another story. I was talking with a friend in Palau. Actually, he was the ambassador from Palau to the United Nations, and I asked him, what could well, the Methodist Church was pretty prominent in Palau, and they basically admitted that they were part of the colonial system, and they would like to reverse that somehow. So I asked him, the ambassador, what he thought the Methodist Church could do to reverse colonialism. And he said breastfeeding. And I said, what? And he said breastfeeding. He said, our people, our women were told early on that breastfeeding was inadequate. It was not healthy for our children, and that they should all buy this formula. And of course, this was all promoted by Carnation and Nestle and the formula making companies. And so he said, our island people started feeding our babies formula. And he said that has ruined the health of our not just the babies, but when those babies grew up, their immune systems are so out of whack that they're suffering from all these later life diseases that were because our people were told we were inadequate. And so the mindset of feeling inadequate kind of makes you forget or abandon your own common sense and your traditions, and by doing so, you actually do tremendous amount of damage, particularly to the health of our people. So this is what needs to be addressed, but it can't be addressed by the people who are selling us the stuff they want us to buy. It has to be addressed by us, by saying, okay, this is what's better for us. And I love it because of the resurgence of kalo or pa'iai and all this in Hawaii is, when we see our children, doing the pa'iai and understanding what they're doing and loving what they're doing, and eating the foods because it came from their own hands, it restores a whole sense of confidence and restores a whole sense of well-being, that I'm okay with who I am. And not only I'm okay, but this is who I am, and this is best for who I am. And that is beginning to, of course, permeate throughout our society today, which is excellent. Getting not just for the sake of getting back to our foods, but really having the confidence and the mindset that when we do things the way we were created to do things, we're not only happier, but actually the results become much more profound and solid.
So true. And it reminds me of being in Hana a couple of weeks ago with Makahana Ike, where the youth are actually making pa'iai every Tuesday, Thursday, and then they're sharing that with the kupuna.
Right.
Also, your point that you shared is very valuable. Also, maybe we'd have better bills. I guess we have to go down there and pound poi every day, not just on opening day at the legislature. So when May comes, we don't have horrible things that only focus on profit and not our planet and the people. And then Palau was a great one because you can see where we're moving. I know there's a new company made by this man who was saying, I want to feed my child good baby food.
Yes.
Breast milk as well. And that is the base, but making sure taro and kalo is already part of the diet. That was part of the traditional knowledge that had been denied. And when you look at Palau and you look around Oceania, we get that sense. Palau came up with a pledge to sort of tame tourism, transform it. And we can look at, and we can then also look, I know at the Cook Islands with the Pacific Island Forum coming up, really Hawaii needs to pivot its perspective. Instead of looking to New York and North Dakota, we need to look more at Papua New Guinea. We need to look more at Tahiti, at Aotearoa, and see the direction going forward. Can you share a bit about your vision for how we see a healthier Hawaii?
In fact, this is where my focus has been over the last, several years, but really more increasing in this past year. And that is reconnecting with our family in the Pacific so that we actually support one another. And those, most of our countries in the Pacific, in the South Pacific, are way more advanced in being more culturally based in their decision making, and so this is really quite a good model to be with. So I've spent quite a bit of time in the first few months of this year talking with them, and we're actually looking at ways we can formally rejoin the Pacific, particularly the Pacific Islands Forum. And of course, next year, Hawaii is hosting the Pacific Arts Festival. And, all of these types of things are increasing, and there's much more sharing going on. So, some of our carvers, led by Andre Perez, are down in Aotearoa carving with their experts down there and learning. And so these type of exchanges are all reinforcing the fact that we are regaining our confidence, regaining our understanding, and our conviction that our culture is extremely important for us to move forward.
Mahalo, Leon. That really focuses on reinforcing, re-engaging, then also realizing those rights that are enshrined in the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, as well as the 17 global goals. We thank you for joining us to discuss Global Goal 3, ensuring holistic, healthy lives and promoting the well-being for all in Hawaii and around our world. Mahalo nui.
Aloha. Mahalo.
Thank you so much for watching Think Tech Hawaii. If you like what we do, please like us and click the subscribe button on YouTube and the follow button on Vimeo. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and donate to us at thinktechhawaii.com. Mahalo.